back to the third season of National Network, where we talk about all things FBLA. My name is Jorge Hernandez Aguilera, and I'm Insects Outreach Coordinator. Today, I am joined by our co-host, Lilia Hakobyan.
Hi everyone, my name is Lilia Hakobyan and I'm NSEC's Resources Director. I'm so excited to introduce today's amazing guest, California State Secretary ClaraNguyen.
Hi, I'm ClaraNguyen. This is my third year in FBLA and I'm serving as the California State Secretary. It's really good to be here.
It's so great to have you today. Thank you so much for being here. And you want to dive straight into the questions?
Yeah, let's go.
So, let's start at the beginning. Every person in FBLA has their own story. So, Clara, what inspired you to join FBLA?
Okay, I think the main reason for me why I joined FBLA was to improve like my public speaking skills. Cause okay, we in middle school we had like this thing where we toured like high schools and I step into Centennial and I see all these like club booths and I was literally like walking right past the FBLA booth, not giving it like a second look. And then I hear something, improve your public speaking. And I was like, that's me. I want to do that. Because I don't know if you know, like when I was in middle school, dude, I was like so bad at public speaking. Like it was literally like a mess. But I think it was like that recognizing that I was kind of messy, that I had like a lot to grow was what motivated me to find like the opportunities to achieve that growth. So I ended up joining FBLA and then while looking for those like opportunities per se. It took me to like a lot of different meetings, events, and I just kind of kept falling down the FBLA rabbit hole. But then all of a sudden it was like, oh, now I'm a chapter officer. Whoa, now I'm section representative. And then whoa, now I'm inland section secretary. Um, and the thing is like I never really joined with the intent to like do any of that stuff. It really was my original goal was just like, yeah, compete in a competitive event. Maybe it'll be speaking. Maybe I'll get far. But then I think it's because like I had such a good chapter. Like there were so many like amazing people who introduced me to these other opportunities and really pushed me to do it. Like whether it was competition or whether it was like actual leadership, that I like got deeper into the I don't know, FBLA verse or whatever. And then the state secretary happened. And I think the reason why I just like kept going for those positions is because of my chapter again. Like I wanted to give that same support and opportunity that I received back to like the members, to the organization. And the thing about being an officer, like you represent so many people, like just so many like experiences, their passions. And as an officer, you're able to create those initiatives so that you can support those passions. And it just like gave me a lot of joy to be able to do that as an officer, which is why I'm here now.
No, that is so real, honestly. Like in middle school, I sucked at public speaking. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Mhm.
Like I
And
had
now it's like it's so weird because it's like now I can do it mostly fine, but when I look at back at like videos of how I used to speak, I'm like, oh, who let her open her mouth?
no, I do not listen to any of my old recordings because I'm not about to do that.
Me neither.
Mm-mm.
I would never be able to tell. You're both such great speakers. Like, I would never be able to tell, ever.
I think that's one of my favorite parts. Like you grow so much. Like I think it's literally exposure therapy because I've done so much public speaking now. It's like I'm better at it. But before, I would like for our first public speaking test off, like I would sit there in my room rehearsing my thing like my name is ClaraNguyen. My speech today is and you just get used to it as you go on.
Honestly. Ugh. Okay. Well, it's so great to hear about your journey, but I want to know more. You have been section and state officer in California. So can you tell us more about like what was your motivation running for state office and section office?
I talked a little bit about it before, like just wanting to give back to FBLA and serving on section secretary is like my first step to doing that. And then I think just like from the experiences that I had running on section, I wanted to see part of it was just like curiosity, like could I do that at a state level? And also because I knew a lot of people on the state who said it was such a good experience that really motivated me to go on. And it was also like bigger platform, bigger way for you to like achieve your goals, bigger way for you to like be ambitious. And I think actually going from like section to state secretary, um, it was like different than I thought it would be. Not in like a different new okay. The thing is like going from section to state, it's not too different. The only difference really is you get really cool polo shirts to put it in one way. But also like in terms of the work you do, the main difference is just like the scale. Like you're talking to more people, you're doing more workshops that are reaching more people. You've got a bigger budget when it comes to like opening closing sessions. Um, but when it comes down to it, like other than recording meeting minutes, I feel like the way you achieve what you want to do is pretty similar. I don't know if I'm putting it the right way. Like your responsibilities kind of stay similar the way you achieve them. Okay, if you have a goal you want to achieve, right? Like for me, one of my main campaign goals was like I wanted to improve how like our resources were organized. I could have done that as section secretary, but I wanted to do it on a larger scale because a lot of people I talked to were like, it was hard for them to find what resources that they wanted to do. I'm getting lost. Wait. And I wanted to create a resource that could impact more people on the state level. And I don't know, that's kind of what motivated me, just being able to help on like a wider scale. And it's the idea that like you're not confined to your role. Like if you have a plan that you want to achieve, what matters is that you're just prepared enough, you dedicate enough to it, and you can achieve it.
I love that. And I love that you also covered my next question because I was going to ask about the difference between section and state
Oh,
secretary. It's okay. I love it. You're thinking multiple steps ahead. That's what makes you such a great officer. But so then I'm gonna move on to the next question. But now that you are state secretary, what's something about the position that was unexpected, but that you've grown to love more now?
I think one thing is that like one thing that's unexpected. Uh, Probably like what I mentioned again, like just like the scale that you're operating at. Like it's so weird to me sometimes when I see people from like across California who come to me, they just like kind of know me. And sometimes it throws me for a loop because it's like, whoa, how do you know me? And then I remember like, oh, I'm state secretary. But it's like the idea that having like more people watching you, what you do, that kind of shook me a lot for the first time because it made me a lot more like wary every time I did something because I'd be thinking like, am I doing this the right way? Am I like portraying myself in a good light? But it also motivates you because it's like I said before, you represent a lot of people. They're all looking to you for guidance. You want to make sure that you're doing like your best to help them grow. And you do grow into it. Like it comes with its benefits too. Like it helps you connect with a lot of people. Like I've met so many people who just came up to me and were like, "Oh, I really enjoyed your campaign speech," or I um just like, oh, I recognize you from so and so, and you meet them and you make friends, and it's a really fun opportunity.
Awesome. And I say this without any bias, but California FBLA is pretty amazing. So our next question is going to be, what's an initiative or event this year that you're especially excited about?
Oh, okay, definitely our resource master list. That was like has been one of my biggest like goals in FBLA in general. Okay, what I like about FBLA is that because we're like a national organization, you've got resources from like everywhere. Like if I searched up like meeting minute templates, I would get stuff from different chapter teams, different states, just even just like members posting it to the internet. The only hard part about it from what I found is that like even if you just do like a Google search, sometimes just because of how many resources there are and some of them are outdated, sometimes it's like hard to find anything. Like unlimited resources, but also no resources. So what the resource master list does is it takes like a lot of I'm working on it with our resources committee, awesome people by the way. But we basically like review a bunch of different resources from like national officers, from past state teams, and we just choose the ones that are like probably like ones that would like be really helpful to members, and we put it in an organized list. So if you have questions about like, competitive events, about BAAs, about like social media templates, you'll be able to navigate it pretty easily and find what you're looking for. And my favorite part about it is that like it's not a stagnant resource. We made it on a Google Docs. So if like anything new comes out throughout the year, like Western Region has their blurb battles, I don't know if they're still doing it this year, but NPEC would have their like success stories. We can just like add it straight onto there, and it's like watching it grow. It's really cool.
No, That's honestly really cool, and I love that. You should really send that to me when you're done with it. Like,
I will.
let me see it. Let me see it. Okay.
I got you. I
We
got
gotta
you.
keep
Thank you,
our
thank you.
California from our Oregon users, Jorge.
Okay,
Um,
well, I'm like near California, so
oh, sure.
You can be your
I
spy. If you send me the Oregon resources, I'll send you the
I
California
got you.
ones.
I got you. I got you. And so for our next question, being a state officer and a member of FBLA is amazing. I've loved it. You clearly love it. But through being an FBLA member, state officer, section officer, not everything works out as planned. So I just want to know, like, what was one main, like, big challenge that you faced being a state secretary, and how did you work through it?
Okay, this one is like a little more personal, but I think one of the biggest things I struggle with, just like in general, is that I have like pretty bad social anxiety. And I know it doesn't come off like convey that well through here, but I feel like whenever I'm talking like about professional things like interviews or like my campaign goals, stuff like that, like I can convey it pretty easily. But when it comes to um like more casual conversations, like the ones that you would have with your friends, that's where I like really trip up. And that's like uh, being secretary, you get like a mix of that. And sometimes like my conversations will tie together and I'm like sitting there trying to figure out like, oh, do I be professional? Do I be personal? Which one do I do? And it kind of throws me for a loop, especially when you're meeting new people. And I think like part of it is because being on the state team, like the expectations like surrounding you are a lot higher, and sometimes the pressure gets to you, especially when you see like all these other cool people doing like really cool things. Like you guys are national council, that's so cool. But sometimes it makes you think like wait, should I be doing that stuff too? Am I like doing enough? And I don't know, like it it really affects like your mindset and how you approach things. Like for me, it made me like a lot more anxious whenever it came to anything. Like even for like basic meetings, I would spend like hours making sure like I was prepared for it, that I would say things. Um, and then like not everything goes your way. Sometimes someone will say things and it would like completely throw me for a loop, and I'd just be like kind of floundering, trying to figure out where I was. But I think being an officer helps you grow through that. Like you're kind of forced to overcome it. You just kind of have to learn like to accept yourself. Like, how do I put this? Like focus less on like what other people are doing and more on like what you want to be, how you're personally going to grow. Because if you keep like comparing yourself to other people or like having it judge the way you interact with others like on your daily life, it just gets like really draining. And it's better to just embrace things with like a little bit more lightly, like to not be so like you just got to be like a little nonchalant, you know? Like just like care enough that you're doing your best, but not too much where you're like overworking yourself. And I think that's like one of the big things I had to overcome for FBLA.
And I mean, thank you so much for sharing that because I mean, I think it's not talked about enough how hard it is to like find that balance between professional and personal. Like genuinely, especially in a section team, I think one of the biggest things I've had to learn is that like, yeah, even in our group chats and everything, people are always so formal or they're sometimes they're so casual, but I'm like, you do realize it's just like the six of us. It's not even just our advisors, right? Why are
I
you texting
know.
like this is my English teacher? Um, but and thank you so much for talking about that. But I want to also ask, on the flip side of that, what would you say has been the most rewarding part of being in your position so far?
Definitely the people you meet. Okay, wait, I want to backtrack a little bit because you brought up like being like a formal professional or like personal in group chats. That's one of my favorite things about our section team is that like we kind of started off a little formal, but pretty quickly like we started making like really stupid brain rot jokes, and that low-key helped us all open up and brought us closer together as a team. And like seeing that like you could do that in a leadership environment where usually like in all the other clubs I've been, like people are really formal, like I don't know. Like they're texting like it's an email, and I'm like, yep. But then you go to the meetings and it's like more personal. But anyway, you just get to meet so many amazing people in FBLA, all with their own talents, all with their own like passions, and it's like so cool, like getting to know them. As state secretary, that's like one of my favorite things, getting to know these other people, like through our initiatives, like whether it's through like conferences or whether it's through like one of the things we have for FBLA is FBLA Focus. And that's like reaching it's like where we reach out to like different members for like advice on certain things. And that's like one of the first conversations I had with Lilia.
Right.
Am I saying your name right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah. But it's like it gets you thinking like would I be meeting these people if it weren't for FBLA? Like there's so many relationships with people that I've had that like it's just so cool. I just really like meeting people and our section team, our state teams are so great. Like I think at Summit, our section team, like we all got like these matching keychains and it was just like a really wholesome moment for me. And I really enjoyed that. I'm a bit of a sap, but I really like my friends. Another thing that I enjoyed, uh, being in FBLA is very like fulfilling for me. One thing, it's like you get to help other people, and it's also like you get to see how much you've grown. Like just to put going from like section to state was like one of the biggest things because after my first section meeting, that was like one of my first officer experiences for I feel like I was so awkward, like so unconfident. Whereas like now, it feels like I fit in a lot more. Like, and it's just like I just like seeing how much I've grown, and it's very fulfilling.
No, like meeting new people, love it too. It's
Mhm.
so nice to meet people. Like if it wasn't for FBLA, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met Lilia. I've met people from across the nation because of FBLA. It's really an amazing thing. But yeah, I mean, I've also seen myself grow up, and I know what you're talking about, and it's just it's an amazing thing, really. FBLA, I get what you mean. It's truly just so wonderful. Now, we have one last question for you, and it's particular about your state office position. There are so many members in FBLA. What advice would you give to those members who are potentially interested in running for state secretary or another state office position? Like, what advice would you give to those people?
When it comes to going to like choosing whether to run, for me, the first thing I think about is like deciding like for a personally is like why I want to run and making sure like you can devote the proper time to go for it because serving as an officer for any organization is a lot of work and it's like it's best for you and the organization if it's something that you're like genuinely passionate about. Like you want to make sure your goals like come from your heart and that just also makes it easier for you to talk about like whether it's like campaigning or interviewing. Another part is to just like not be afraid and just like kind of go for it. Like not just for like office, but also for like competitive events. Like you just kind of want to throw yourself, maybe not throw yourself, but like make sure you're prepared enough and then try the experience. Like, that's how you make the most of your like FBLA journey. You just gotta like try different things, experiment, see what works for you. Like if you're not willing to grow, then it's like if you're not trying to do those things, you're not gonna be willing to grow. Um, but like for me, when I decided to go for state secretary and I was talking to like some people in my chapter about it, one of the first things that I was told was like, I don't think you should run. I don't think you're ready. And that like, I know that like put me off for like so long. I was like, wait, but if they're saying it, maybe I'm not. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, this is something I'm passionate about. This is something that I feel I can do a lot with. And I just prepared myself a lot and then all of a sudden I got it. But it's a thing. Like no matter what anyone tells you, you just have to have like faith in yourself and have confidence for you to be persistent and try other things. Even if like you don't think it's gonna work. Like, oh, if you think like, oh, I don't think I can cover this position, I'm not qualified enough, or like, oh, I don't think I can do this event, I don't have skill. You're gonna get like you'll be chances are you'll be pleasantly surprised. And even if you're not like win or lose, it's still an experience that you can take a lot away from.
I totally agree. And I mean, thank you so much for talking about that. But with that, our interview has come to an end. So, Clara, thank you so, so much for joining us today and giving so much insight and a glimpse into the life of a state secretary. It's been so inspiring, genuinely, to hear your insights and experiences within FBLA because it's so important to talk about that. And I'm so glad that you came on today.
Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. It was so cool getting to meet you guys too.
For the listeners watching today, I hope you are left with a bunch of things to think about because Clara has definitely giving us so much today. Thank you again. But again, to all our listeners, thank you for being in for joining this episode of National Network. We'll see you for the next one. Bye.